I'm here with Aleks from 156 Silence and Lukas from Nullity, and we're going to talk about some stuff.
Dope.
So, you guys have known each other for a while. Why don't you tell me how you guys met each other?
Scumbags, I think.
Roundhouse days, maybe? Whenever you went to Breath of September?
Yeah, probably.
But
yeah.
we weren't really friends, friends. Until...
I think we first, we had probably seen each other in passing from a venue called the Roundhouse, which was OG DIY venue back in the day, but I would say probably we met at Scumbags due to TR Rinks, because our bands played together forever ago.
Whenever you were in Gray.
Yeah. But that was probably when we got to know each other the best. I mean, we saw each other in passing and had a few conversations, but it's kind of when we really actually got to be friends and shit. So
now he's my big brother.
The adult relationship.
Definitely.
So, you guys both play in heavier bands. Why, or not really why, what would you say are some of the big differences between each other's bands?
I think that the biggest difference that I would notice off the bat is that we don't really do any harmonies or melodies. Their songs have a bit more of a different structure. There's more of a defined chorus, whereas most of our songs are just a straight line through. It's just most of the parts don't repeat, or if they do, it's only in the breakdown. We don't really have defined choruses for the majority of our songs, and we don't really have a lot of melodic parts. In our older stuff we did, but not the same way. Their songs just have a bit more of a traditional post-hardcore structure.
Kind of that metalcore-esque type stuff.
Yeah. And our stuff is more borderline on hardcore, which doesn't really have as much structure because it's punk. So punk is all over the place.
Yeah.
But that's really all I can say. I mean, both of it's thrashy, heavy, randomly, big breakdowns. People get punched in the face. Same thing.
We're similar enough to play a show with each other, but we can still branch off and play with other bands.
So, we're just outside of Pittsburgh, main city, and so that's kind of the scene. What has been your experiences in the scene? We were talking about it a little bit on the way here, about about not always being great, but some of the people being amazing.
I've noticed that the scene is incredibly cliquey. I think there's incredible people doing incredible things in a lot of different genres. I have a lot of respect for the DIY scene. I know it's kind of a tight-knit community, but they really do a lot of good work for artists around the entire United States, and I think they're all a lot of wonderful people. I don't really have a lot of experience with them because hardcore doesn't tend to be too friendly towards that stuff, and I don't know. I'm not too huge on the hardcore scene, so I think there's again incredible people that are doing incredible things, and there's a lot of really, really hard-working bands and artists. But the unfortunate nature of a lot of this is that there's a lot of people who force their personal opinions into somewhere that it doesn't really belong. And I think that there's people that are out there that just, especially in heavier music, that just want to hurt people, and I'm not really down with that. But I mean, I've met some of my best friends in the world through the music scene, so I really can't complain. For everything that I could say that's bad about the music scene, I can say 101 amazing things, so I'll take it.
Yeah.
I like to think of our scene, our personal scene, as a kind of an open system, because there's usually 4 or 5 bands that our band plays with, and that's our sort of clique. And then there's 5 other bands that always play together, and so on and so forth. But the difference between us, our group, over those groups is that we'll let those groups play with us, but those groups won't let us play with them. It's very cliquey. It's literally like high school. Like there's kids with there's jocks with leather jackets, and there's little emo kids, and there's little nerd kids. There's so many different genres in our scene, and I just wish we would all come together more. But the people that are together are together for life. I never would have met him if I wouldn't have started going to shows, and him and I hang out all the time. Mm-hmm. And like he said, there's a lot of good things about it, but there's also a lot of not so good things about it. But overall, I'd say it's not bad. At least it's diverse. It's not all one band with one type of sound. You can find so many different bands in Pittsburgh, all the way from even hip hop artists down to the grimiest, heaviest bands, to the most psychedelic bands, to the most clean acoustic bands. You can find anything around here, and that's what I like about it, because there's so many different things you can listen to. But that would be my opinion on the scene.
So I've been to a few of the places like the Roboto Project and Smiling Moose, places like that. What are your favorite places to go to in the city?
I would have to say that currently my favorite place to play in the city is the Rex. It's a gorgeous venue. They've done a lot of really good work on it, and they probably have one of the best sound systems in Pittsburgh. They're a lot of really hardworking people, and they do good work. They put on good shows, and I've never really been disappointed there. Sometimes for bigger packages it gets a little out of hand, but I really I think that's one of the better venues in Pittsburgh. I've seen some amazing bands go through there, and they always make them sound good. So
I've never played at the Rex Theater, but for my band personally, Club Diesel treats us really well. And whenever it comes to non-Pittsburgh, Club Radioactive in Katanning is our home. We play there all the time. It was like the scumbags of wherever it is, but the Club Diesel is really good. Everybody's really polite. The bands that are usually on those bills are all incredible. There's a good turnout for almost every show there, and plus the place just looks beautiful. It's an actual nightclub, and the promoters promote very well. The sound guy knows what he's doing, and he even before the show starts, he takes time out of his day to come in and make sure, hey, do you guys have any extra things do you want to put through the set, whenever it comes to lights or stuff, and they're just really polite, and I like that venue. I also really like the Smiling Moose. It's a really nice little venue. It's always a rip snorting time whenever we go over there. It's great.
If you could take 5 bands and put them on a set and play with them and have a great night, who would you put on that bill?
If we're talking past to present, just Pittsburgh bands,
mm-hmm.
I would say, that's a really good question. Sufta, definitely. Those guys are awesome. Save Us from the Archon. They always put on an incredible show. Their drummer's unreal. It's really hard. There's a band called Keys that I played with forever ago at a basement show in Oakland. It was actually Killing Things EP release, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were really solid. They were a weird, punky, Foo Fighters kind of vibe. It was sick. Definitely Pale or Poseidon's Wake. I love those dudes. They always made it a fun show.
Oh goodness.
Embrace the Hostility. Definitely, those guys are really good. Probably Purge. They're they're a 2-piece grindcore band from Pittsburgh that's the heaviest thing I've ever seen, and they're just these 2 inconspicuous dudes that just go up there and just shred harder than anything I've ever seen in my life. And they're just guitarists that at the one show that we played got knocked over while they were mid-set because the pit just trampled onto the dirt stage, and he just was on the ground still playing, screaming his fucking head off, and it was just this is fucking awesome. So that'd probably be it for me.
He knows a lot more bands than I do, but if I were to go to a show, I would like to see, this would be a really weird show, by the way. Takeover Soldiers would be one of them, because even though they're not. I don't think they're doing stuff anymore, right?
They're on hiatus.
Makes me upset. But they're one of my personal favorites in the Pittsburgh scene. They're ridiculously heavy, and they play hardcore. But the reason I like them so much is because their vocalists can actually do more than just mids, which is really uncommon in a lot of hardcore bands. Like most hardcore bands just do like one consistent yell, but Aleks Shieldy can do any vocal under the sun. He is an incredible vocalist. I'd go for them. A Lovely Crisis, which is a older like punk band. They play all around now. They tour. Their drummer Nigel's actually going on tour with Leota, I believe, for a month.
So I think that's 2, 3?
Yeah, 2.
Okay.
His band, I always love seeing his band, 156. Gray, his older band, I always love seeing them. And then, 5th one. If they were still a band, Cinematics. Cinematics does like weirdish, like ska type stuff. And I really love that. But the list would go on. Those are just 5 that I can think of immediately.
So, what do you think are some of the kinds of the harder parts of being a band in Pittsburgh compared to being a band in maybe, I don't know, Minnesota or Utah or somewhere else?
Actually funny that you bring that up because I used to be in a band out towards Utah. They started in Salt Lake City and then moved over to Sacramento. But the things that I remember being different in other scenes versus being in Pittsburgh scenes, because I lived in Cali, I lived in Massachusetts, and I was actively a part of the music scene in Sacramento, but I just noticed that like if someone said that there was a show going on, everyone would go out. Like that was the thing to do. You didn't have a hard time in a hometown show getting like 200, 300 people to roll out and like be there. And I think it's just kind of the mentality is a bit different, because right now we have so many bands that are playing in Pittsburgh all the time, and I feel like because it is cliquey, you typically only go out to see your friends' bands, which is fine. Like I love the people that come out and support us, but you rarely see people that cross genres and go to different shows. It's very, very rare. And but in California that wasn't a thing. Like you would see people going to metal shows and they would be at a ska show the next day, or they would be at like Never Shout Never, like whatever, like it's something completely different. Like they'd be at a rap show, they didn't care, they just wanted to be at a show. And the mentality is kind of different here, because there's a very small amount of people that are just like, I just want to be at a local show because I'm really proud of my local artists. But then you get like these big bands that roll through and people are instantly like, yes, gotta go see them, and it's just like, I totally agree, but like, I think that if people invested more in the local bands that actually give a shit, because there are bad local bands, there's always going to be bad local bands, but there's so many bands in Pittsburgh that actually give a shit and actually care and actually want to do something with themselves. And I feel like if people invested in them, it would help them out so much more. I don't know if that's realistic, but I mean, that's the way that I try and support everybody equally. I don't always make it out to shows, and it's kind of a fault of my own, but I still try to go to shows that I'm not playing as often as I can. But
I'm a poor college student, so it's really hard to get out to a show. But since it's like that, the most crippling thing about starting a band around here is literally like starting the band and trying to find shows, because everybody's so divided and there's only like 2 people to go to local shows, and whenever you're in a band and you're really confident, like you're really confident you're gonna play your first show, and you play your first show, and like 5 people go, they only show up there, like I don't care how good of character you have, you're gonna be pissed off if there's only 5 people going to a show where your first show is gonna be played. And sometimes it really cripples bands to the point where like people don't even want to play music anymore, and it's really hard to start generating a ruckus around here since there's so many bands around. And I'd say starting off is the hardest part.
I've also found that if you want to play a show, especially in Pittsburgh, you have to book it yourself.
Yep.
There's not really any booking people that are willing to work with you, and like me and my guitarist Jimmy have dropped hundreds and hundreds of dollars on renting venues and putting together local shows, and we're never going to see any of that money ever again. But I mean, we're okay with it because we need to get out there, we need to play shows, even if we're the ones throwing it, we don't really care. We just want to play, and we even try to bring it to as many areas as possible, like reaching out to different venues, trying to find new promoters, ending up being those new promoters because we couldn't find anybody. Like it's frustrating, and I hate booking shows. It's so stressful on top of being in a band, running the show, bringing my own PA system, running the PA system, finding someone to run the door. Like it's just it's super stressful, but it's at the end of the day it's worth it because I get to see my friends like him having an awesome fucking time. And even if it's like 10 or 15 people, you kind of get used to it, and you kind of realize that those 10 or 15 people will be there to support you even whenever you hit the top, and you know that the only reason why you're there is because of those 10 or 15 people, so they mean that much more. And they're like family at that point. Anybody that comes to one of my shows is like family.
That's why I really like the scene around here, because it's very tight. Like the people who are tight are inseparable, and that's the best part about it. But it really is hard if you're aiming straight for the top. Like you're really gonna have to grind in this city to try and get it up. Just because everything's oversaturated. It doesn't matter what genre it is, like there's at least 3 bands that play it. It's really hard to start out.
Which is a good thing and a bad thing.
Yeah, it's a good thing. It builds character.
It kind of, yeah, it does. It weeds people out. But.
All right. So I know your band Nullity is working on new music. What's your band doing right now?
So we actually have a lot of changes. I've been a vocalist for so many years, but in 156 I switched over to bass and I just kind of did backup. We decided that with our newer stuff we're going to kind of get heavier, so we decided that it would be for our best interest if I took over on vocals and my vocalist Mike switched over to bass. I've been doing a lot of the heavier stuff for longer. Mike's a way better vocalist than I am, to be honest. He can write lyrically incredible things. He's like actually a poet, and it's like you can look through any one of our albums and read through everything that he's written, and it's beautiful and incredible what he's managed to do with heavy music, because it's not something that you expect. Mm-hmm. Because I mean, people literally bark in songs, so like the fact that he's managed to bring a certain type of poetry to it is phenomenal. So, but we just decided that my vocal style just happens to fit what we're doing more, and Mike's probably better at me, or better than me at bass, anyways. So. But we are releasing a single coming out soon. We're recording that in the next couple weeks, and then in March we're shipping out of Pittsburgh to go record a new EP. It's going to be a 5-track EP, it's disgusting and heavy. It's some of the heaviest. It is the heaviest music I've ever written, and I'm really excited about it. There's so many cool things happening that I'm really proud of. So I can't wait to share it with everybody. Obviously, I can't spill the beans on a lot of it, but it's really dope, and I'm really excited.
So what do you think was the push to go in a heavier direction?
Well, so we released our full-length album, and half of our full-length album was like softer, melodic, like kind of dancey at sometimes, like weird guitar solos, and it's really pretty. And then about halfway through, it just turns mean, disgusting, and heavy. And we just noticed that we didn't get as much recognition for the prettier stuff that we liked more. And sometimes as a band, you kind of need to sit down and just be like, okay, it's not always about what we want. So we noticed more that it was what everybody else wanted, and honestly, it's more fun to play. It's more fun than like seeing people stand there like this while they're staring at you, and you're just playing like weird melodic stuff, and
You just see people like that.
yeah, as opposed to seeing people just slaughter each other. So, I mean, it's just the energy's way different, and I think all of us just decided that we prefer the energy of the heavier music, and it's kind of something that we've all wanted to do for a while. So I think the album was really that breaking point that was just like, okay, we put it out there and everybody basically told us what they wanted. So I think it was a good thing for us. It was an eye-opener, definitely.
All right, and so Nullity is putting out a 2-song EP.
2-song EP.
You're gonna have to explain the story on why it's a 2-song EP.
So we right now even we have over like 12 tracks like made, and we have all of them made, but we've had those tracks ever since we were a band to begin with. And the reason we did a 2-track EP is because one song is a lighter side and one song is a heavier side, and we thought that setting out this EP would make us think about the direction that we want to go into, because our first EP, I basically wrote half of it, and our other guitar player basically wrote half of it. And these 2 songs are like the first time we both like collaborated and started mixing what we actually liked into our music. So we wanted to bust out these 2 tracks and then have them out and sit on them for a little bit, and then play more shows and generate money to get a van, and then after that we will worry about more music. So it was just a little decision. We were just like, hey, these don't really fit with the other songs that we have for our other music, so we're just gonna put them in the one EP, and that's about it. It's also called Life Over Death, which has something to do with our logo. Our logo is like some edgy little like flower noose thing, and the flower represents life, and the noose represents death. And since the flower's on top, is life over death. So we thought we would want to do that, and then after we're done releasing those, we'll start recording for future songs. But we just wanted to bust out those 2 songs real quick because we started playing them live, and we realized that those two songs really go well with each other. So we just lumped them together instead of just throwing them onto one huge like 14-track album. But that is our method to our madness.
So should we expect a split coming anytime soon?
We would like it. We are trying to collaborate with other bands to make a split. Mm-hmm. I had an idea to where every band in our scene could make like a compilation album with different songs on it. Like they could be written with other people, or they can just be complete songs. But I'd want to do that because there's so much diversity with all of the other bands that we would be able to complement each other very nicely if we were to just put our heads together for like 1 minute song or something like that. But that would be really cool. I would really love to do a split. It'd be really nice working with other people.
It's really hard to set up.
Yeah, really hard.
We've tried for a while, and it's hard because bands typically plan very far in advance for when they're recording. and it's just kind of having a band that's similar to you, that's written songs or can write songs as fast as you can, and will be ready in the same amount of time, and is going to be going to the studio in the same amount of time. It's a very difficult thing to line up, so props to bands that can do it.
Yeah.
Lord knows I've tried numerous times, and it's kind of always fallen through, but fingers crossed for the future that maybe at some point it'll work out.
Oh, also, every band in our scene decided to just take the rest of the year off, so...
Yeah, I think we had a lot of really strong bands for a while.
They're all recording, and 2017 is going to be a really big year for the scene around here, at least.
I believe so too, and I think that I'm really hoping that a couple promoters step up and really hop on this, because it'd be a shame for all these bands to like release all this music and not really have anything going on. So I'm really hoping that more people get involved in the scene. Like, you don't need to be a musician to throw shows or be a part of it. And I don't really like the stigma that like, if you're not in a band or you've never been in a band, you can't be a part of the music scene. You can't be involved. It's BS. I know some of the best promoters I know have never been in a band or can't even play music. They're just passionate about it.
So, did either of you guys, you have a release date for the EP, I believe. Is that correct?
We don't want to give out the specific day, but it will be in February.
Okay. And do you have a release date for that EP, or no idea?
Well, so we're releasing the single to kind of tide people over, because it is going to be a long time before we record all that. So we'll be releasing the single, I'm sure, sometime in January or February, and it just kind of depends on when we get everything done. We try to be as punctual as possible, so I don't really like to give anything definitive and then just be wrong, because then I'm an asshole. But I would say look for the single in January or February, and then look for the EP May, June, whenever. Just general areas, because I know that we're going to polish things and we want to make it as tight and as good as possible, because we believe in giving 125% of ourselves and nothing less.
So what do you guys, other than those, do you guys have any shows planned for 2017 yet?
I have a couple tentative tours. That's about it. We're probably, depending on whenever the album comes out, we're probably gonna have like a release show of some sort. But we're definitely not playing anything until after March. Mm-hmm. Probably the earliest is April, but that's even still pushing it. So we're gonna be quiet for a good half of the year, probably, unfortunately. But I would rather be quiet and do well than not do anything at all, I guess. So it sucks, but it's a give and take.
We don't have anything set in stone, but we want to throw together a little EP release show as well. But other than that, nothing's really set in stone. We've been getting like little offers for some shows, and those shows aren't set in stone yet. So we're just gonna have to wait for a little bit until everybody's recuperated from like Christmas ham and things like that. Just have to wait.
I think that's about it. We can find all of your music, I believe, on Bandcamp and YouTube and other places that I'm not thinking about right now.
Our first EP is on Spotify, actually.
There you go.
Our EP and album is on Spotify, and our full album and EP are both free right now on Bandcamp. So if anybody wants to give us a listen, it's totally and completely free.
Our stuff's free too, I believe.
Yeah. So check it out, pick it up, support local music.